I'm Mike the Broda, and this is Terraquip Talk. After years of providing drilling equipment solutions, I know that a project success hinges on reliable, high-quality rigs that meet your needs. So if you're ready to make smarter equipment decisions and build stronger foundations, let's get started.
Hey everyone, this is Mike the Broda, and I'm here with Terraquip Talk. We have another episode today. I hope everything's all right with you and the industry is treating you well. Now, we started this podcast because we wanted to give a voice to our industry, but also because I've been inspired by other podcasters out there, people that were kind of like in the civil construction works. And I'm happy to say that a couple of weeks ago, we had a live with Earthworks Hub. That was with Ivan. You can find him on Instagram, but also on our page as well, because we actually collaborated and we reshared all the reels and stuff. It was a very interesting discussion. It was very interesting to see how someone from the civil industry that deals with excavators, trucks, that kind of stuff, but they're not directly involved with the drilling and piling. It was interesting to see what sort of questions they asked me and to see that, I guess from the outside. So it was very interesting. If you haven't seen it, it's Earthworks Hub. It was about an hour and a half episode. Very interesting conversation. Now, we work with international companies. We work with suppliers from Italy, from Germany, from US sometimes, from Korea, right? So it's very international sort of context, right? Because of that, we deal with shipping and logistics, and they're an integral part of our business, as well as foreign currency. I mean, we purchase everything is in euro if it's from Europe, or American dollars if it's from US, or any other currency depending on the country. Then we ship the goods into Australia, we import them, then we sell them in Australian dollars, right? So the international context plays a massive role for us, right? Because we're dealing with companies from so far away. So I can't not mention anything about what's happening now in Middle East, and it's pretty much like it's a local conflict, but it's not just a local conflict. It has influences and impact all over the world. So I did say in one of the previous episodes that today we're actually going to take the time and discuss a little bit about this. But of course, I know that there are more important things to worry about than our industry right now. I mean, you've got loss of human life there. You have damages, to hospitals, infrastructure, and so forth. Right? But if you're someone like me that puts foot on the table working in this industry, you cannot talk about it, and you cannot think about the impact that it could have to our industry. Now, the drilling and piling industry in Australia operates as a backbone for our nation's infrastructure for mining and urban development sectors. However, its heavy reliance on specialized European machinery, particularly from engineering hubs such as Italy with INT Marini, or Germany like Klein, Bauer, Lieber, I think it leaves us in a uniquely exposed place to the geopolitical tremors that are happening in the Middle East. And we're going to see in a second how. So everybody knows as of this year, 2026, the escalation of conflict in the Middle East has moved beyond just a regional concern, like I was saying. It kind of evolved into this systemic supply chain tax for the Australian contractors as well, and for the Australian people. And the most immediate and visible impact is, of course, at the fuel pumps, right? With the price of diesel now, I think it's in excess of $3.20 a liter, which is crazy, right? But also the impact of the primary maritime artery, and that's the Suez Canal. You see, traditionally, equipment from Italy or Germany would travel through the Mediterranean and the Red Sea to reach Australia. Now, with the escalation of the hostilities, they got to protect themselves, right? And major shipping lines such as Maersk or Hapag-Lloyd have increasingly bypassed the Red Sea in the favor of Cape of Good Hope. What that means basically means that there are extended lead times. So rerouting around Africa would add roughly about 10 to 15 days to an already lengthy journey. And let's face it, for piling contractors out there waiting for a custom-built rig for a Tier 1 project, a 2-week delay is not really just a small inconvenience. It can trigger liquidated damages and all that sort of fun stuff, right? So then you have the issue of capacity crunch as well, because as ships take longer to complete a circuit, the effective global fleet capacity shrinks. So this artificial scarcity allows the carriers to impose what they call the war surges and the emergency diversion fees, which are significantly inflating the landed costs of heavy machinery, right? Because we have the ROROs, roll on, roll off. So it's not us pocketing the profits. It's literally the shipping lines taking advantage a little bit of the situation. But of course, some of the cost increase is because of the fuel as well, because they need to pay more in fuel, right? The fuel pretty much all over the world has increased. I was actually talking to one of my friends in Europe, and they were saying, dude, we already had very expensive fuel compared to Australia, but now it's even more expensive. It's got up even more, right? So it's very sad. It's people are having it tough all over the world. With this episode, I don't want to talk about. I'm not here about, I'm not crazy to talk politics to say like, oh, which side. I'm not educated enough. I'm not qualified enough to talk about this stuff, right? And of course, I have my own opinion, but opinions are like, which kind of holes. So everybody's got one, right? So I'm staying out of it. But what I can talk about is how I can see that it's influencing our industry and our current situation. Now, this Middle East conflict literally acts as a risk-off sort of thing, trigger for the global financial markets as well, because we spoke about the exchange rate volatility, right? So when geopolitical tensions spike, investors typically flee the commodity prices, like the Australian dollar, something like Australian dollar, and they go to the safe havens, such as the US dollar, right? Because it's more stable, or this Swiss franc. But that's usually typical behavior when events like this happen. But in our case right now, Australian dollar has been holding up pretty well considering all the things involved. Now, the reason why our currency has been doing so well in the last sort of month or so, I mean, just a couple of, just a few days ago, we had one Australian dollar buying you 61 or 62 euro cents. This hasn't happened in months, right? Now it's about 60 euro cents, but it's still pretty good, right? So the reason why our currency has been holding up so well in the last month or so, I think it's a combination of factors, such as the local monetary policy with the interest rates being hiked as well, which doesn't really make sense, right? Like, I mean, the RBA put up the interest rates when the fuel prices is going up like crazy. Like people are already struggling with the cost of living increase, and then you've got all of this, I guess, we spoke about it in AI, job displacement because of AI. Massive companies such as Westpac, like all the banking companies as well, the finance, the tech, they put off so many people because of AI, right? Revolution. So then at the same time, you've got the interest rates being put up as well, right? Which it doesn't make sense, right? But anyway, that's not, as I said, that's not my place to talk about, right? So while the euro may also face pressure due to its proximity to the energy disruptions, the Australian dollar often suffers more as a proxy for the global growth, right? So it's kind of like a mirror of what's happening in the world because of the business uncertainty and the demand for iron ore and all that sort of stuff. But a weakening Australian dollar against the euro means that basically how it could impact this means that a €1 million piling rig would become literally $100,000 more when it comes to Australian dollars, right? Literally overnight, even before the shipping is calculated. And of course, the shipping price is going up as well. That's why one of the things that we've done to help our customer has been to put in place hedging options that will ensure the Australian dollar price even 6 months after the deal has been made. So we sign the contract. As soon as the client places the irrevocable order and puts in the deposit, the, of course, non-refundable deposit, we go in and we secure the Australian dollar price for, let's say, 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, depending on when we expect that rig to arrive. So I actually heard it many times from close clients that some of our competitors, they price them only in euro, right? And they give them the contract, like the actual invoice is in euro, with the payment that can be made in Australian dollars, but at the current rate, right? But you don't know what the current rate is going to be, right? Which makes things very confusing for some clients. Some clients, they understand it, they don't mind it, right? But for some, it's very confusing. I mean, 100%, even with a hedging facility in place, as a company, I'm taking the risk, giving the price in Australian dollar, because if for whatever reason, if that particular deal doesn't go through in 6 months from now, I'm responsible to my financial institution, to my bank, for purchasing that particular amount of euro which I secured, regardless if the deal goes ahead or not. So say, for example, a machine gets canceled or something happens on the way. Yeah, sure, we get our insurance money, but I still need to buy the euro. So I totally understand why some of my competitors would just price them in euro rather than Australian dollars. But we wanted to give this extra service to our Australian clients in order to make their life easier, right? And kind of like take the risk upon us. So the impact is not just in shipping, it's also in the forge as well, if you think about it, because Germany and Italy, they have their heavy manufacturing sector, which are highly sensitive to the energy prices. So how does that work? Well, if the conflict restricts oil and gas flow through, as we know, the famous Strait of Hormuz now, European energy prices surge as well. So this increasing of cost of smelting steel and manufacturing the procedure hydraulic components, which are essential, they're vital to the drilling technology, right? Everything is going to go up, right? So high energy costs can lead to industrial slowdowns in Europe as well, extending the manufacturing lead times as well as the pricing at the factory level before the equipment is even going to reach the departure port. Hey, before we continue with our episode, I just want to say, if you're someone that shares our passion for drilling, you have experience and you want to tell your story right here at Terraquip Talk, we would be more than happy to have you, even if you're someone from a company that doesn't use our equipment. Now back to the episode. Now, we spoke about the fuel prices here at home right now. When we're filming this, it's the 1st of April. The price of diesel was literally like $3.24. And that's pretty damn hard to digest for anyone, not only for people in our industry, because it's the lifeblood of our daily operation. When you've got to think about it in our industry, if you got a 100-ton machine, I was actually talking to a client that punches hole 10 to 12 hours a day, an unexpected 40% jump in fuel costs can literally devour their profit margin on a fixed price contract, right? So it's a massive hit to your operational expenditure, to the OPEX. And I know it's keeping a lot of you guys up at night. It's definitely something that I'm worried about it too, right? I guess this is the time when that electric Libra rig would shine, right? I'm joking, of course. With the price of fuel going up, especially if you're using a generator to charge that thing, right? But the electricity price is going to go up regardless as well, right? Like everything, it triggers this domino effect, right? But what does help a little bit is having, I guess, the TFO final engines, advanced hydraulics with like the load sensing pumps, which most rigs have these days, right? The intelligent engine system, management systems, right? So rigs equipped with the systems can burn and will burn a little bit less fuel. While normally people will be like, no, I want tier 3 engine because it's less complicated, less electronics, doesn't have the AdBlue. Now I think a lot more people, if they can save that 5-10% in fuel, a lot more people will be like, no, we want the tier 4 final, right? Just depends, right? What the situation is. Now, the drilling and piling industry, we know that thrives on certainty, and the business, this is another way it could impact. So even if nothing else happens, but just the business certainty, right? Like the certainty that a deal is going to go through, that you can build that large scale infrastructure project that requires years of planning and stable capital, right? That influences us a lot. So high interest rates for us right now, driven by conflict-induced inflation, combined with rising equipment costs, as we said, and shipping, leads to capital expenditure fatigue. And Australian firms may defer as a result of these renewals, and they would choose to maybe patch up aging rigs rather than investing in a more efficient, lower emission European model, right? It's just what happens, right? It's a smart thing to do. You just react to what's happening in there. Now, beyond the machines themselves, the industry relies on a constant flow of wear parts like teeth, auger seals, whatever, pads, you name it. And the fear of a parts drought can lead to a panic buying and stockpiling, which further ties up cash flow and strains the industry liquidity, right? So where do you go? Do you choose to spend even more money to have backup just in case we're going to go through a period where parts are not going to be accessible in components and rigs, but that means you're basically strangling your cash flow? Or do you just take the risk and try to save every single money, right? So it's a very difficult decision to be made. it's not something easy that I guess we're going through right now, even in our industry. We spoke about this this stuff, and I know the outlook appears pretty green, but let's think about it. Let's think about the push for resilience, and let's think about how every crisis can actually give birth to some opportunities as well. So this crisis, could actually be forcing a strategic evolution for our Australian market, and we're already seeing a bit of an inventory shift right now. Like, for example, some dealers are moving away from the just-in-time delivery to just-in-case inventory, right? Holding more stock locally in Australia to insulate customers from shipping spikes. And that's something we've been doing as well. We recently placed a significant order, not only for Marini, which goes through a lot of spare parts, right? Because they're very busy out there right now, but also for our IMT piling rigs as well, and Klein pumps and G&H computers. So this is something that this is what we're doing, to help in this situation. So as I was saying earlier, do you put out the money out there, you take the risk in order to be prepared, or do you hold on to cash, right? But then you risk of exposing yourself to, unavailability. So in our case, I choose to risk. I choose to, and thankfully we're in a favorable situation that we can do this in order to prepare for a potential, let's say, more severe disruption. Right now, the disruption is not huge, but it could be, even bigger. Now, without a doubt, some dealers are moving away to procure equipment also from regions that are a little bit further away, from the conflict zone. And it's already happening right now. Even before this conflict started, you see some dealers moving away from European manufacturers and they're buying, from China. They're bringing equipment from China or from Korea or Japan or whatever, right? We haven't done this much because, as I said, we had a deal in the making with some guys from South Korea, some really, really good equipment manufacturers. Not a huge company, but very professional. They come in with a lot of experience, and we're still in negotiation, to become. So before we announce that publicly, we're still in negotiation. We're still trying to see how we deal with them, and we're testing the products. We're currently testing their products with one of our clients. But here's the thing. We spoke about all this negative stuff, but this is what I want to really focus on in this episode as we wrap up, because we're actually running a little bit out of time. I know I just went through a list of pretty heavy challenges, from shipping diversions to energy prices. But the reason I'm bringing all this up is not to hit the panic button. It's just to let you know that we see the board. We see it clearly. And more importantly, we know exactly how to navigate it. Because over the last 15, 20 years in this industry, we've weathered the global financial crisis, a pandemic, massive supply chain meltdowns. So all the fun stuff, as I said earlier, right? So experience had taught us that hope is not a strategy, but preparation is. And that's exactly what we've been doing at Terraquip to insulate you as much as possible, right? Like we're not a huge company, but whatever it is in our power to control, we'll try to do it in order to insulate you, our clients, from this global tremors, right? So first and foremost, we fundamentally shifted to an inventory strategy. As I said earlier, we recently placed a huge order. What we also did, we invested more in stock. So we have machines that are on order, on the water right now, but we also placed a bigger order than previous years. Also because we're larger as a company, we're now close to celebrating 8 years. Terraquip is almost 8 years old. So we're more established, which gives us access to more credit, more, better payment terms with our suppliers, therefore more stock. So this is the time that we're actually investing more, although there's a crisis. We're trying to take advantage. While some people would maybe try to, and some companies would be like, you know what, they'll be very risk averse. We don't want to risk it right now. We're just going to sit on our bums and see what's happening and then make a decision. You can't do that. You'll be losing if you're doing that, right? So we're actually taking the burden of our clients as much as we can with essential spare parts, stock, seals, pads, ropes, and things like that. So when you need it, you can come to us. We have it. Secondly, as I mentioned earlier, we're taking the risk when it comes to the financial hedging facilities, right? So in a volatile market, certainty is the most valuable asset. And of course, you want to be certain about the price that you're paying, right? So when you're purchasing from us a multi-million-dollar rig for multiple year projects, you know exactly what your capex is going to be. Because by locking in the Australian dollar price, we act pretty much like a shock absorber, if you want. So you can have the confidence that working with us, it gives you that certainty. Just to give an example, one of the previous days I was talking to one of our clients that has quite a significant order with us. We're still in the process there. We delivered some of it. We're still delivering up to June. And they were asking us like, is this okay? Like, is the contract still going ahead? You're not going to charge us anything extra, right? Because you have a contract. Absolutely, we're not. We've made a deal. We closed the deal. We never go back on our deals, right? I've had the unfortunate situation a few times in my career where clients, they kind of went like, oh, no, like we have a deal, but then they went back and said, I'm not happy with this deal. Well, tough luck. You've made a deal there. We signed a contract. We shook hands. You gave a word. That's it. You're completing it. You're not going to go back on that. And certainly we never have. I never went back on that. And finally, our greatest asset, I will say it right now, is our relationships. We aren't just a number on a spreadsheet to those factories in Italy or Germany, with our suppliers, with IMT, with Marini, with Klein, with G&H. Because of the volume that we do and because the years that we spend working together and building these relationships, building these bridges, if you will, and developing their products for the Australian market. When factory lead times get stretched, we have a bit of leverage to ensure our Australian clients remain a priority, right? So yes, the global situation is complex right now and the waters are a bit choppy to say the least. But you know what? It was kind of the same uncertainty back in 2020 during COVID. We had 3 contracts being canceled during COVID, March 2020. I'll never forget it, right? I was like, oh my God, everything is going down. But you know what? There's just ups and downs, right? It's just this situation will pass eventually, right? And there's going to be some solutions. It's just the normal ups and downs, twists and turns of, I guess, any situation, any business, if you will. As long as we have the mechanisms in place, the inventory and the experience to support you, we'll be able to handle it. So if you're looking ahead at any upcoming projects and feeling a bit of capex fatigue or uncertainty, please reach out. Let's sit down, look at your timeline, look at your requirements, and try to put in place a secure plan, right, that you can rely on. We're here to help. We also have significant relationships with freight forwarders, with shipping lines, with foreign exchange facilities. So all of these mechanisms, all of these contacts, all of this network that we have in place is there to support you to make sure that we're delivering our projects. Thank you very much, guys, for tuning in. I really hope with this episode I was able to give a bit of confidence and a bit of reassurance, especially to the clients that we have and to the potential clients that were looking to invest in a drilling equipment. I really hope that you're not too concerned and, things will turn sooner rather than later, I'm pretty sure. Now, thanks for watching. This was Terraquip. I'm Mike the Broder. Please don't forget to tune in for the next episode. We're going to be talking about piling drilling technologies in general and what rigs are used when depending on the ground conditions. Thank you very much for watching. And please don't forget, if it's not turning, you're not earning.
Thanks for tuning into Terraquip Talk. If you enjoyed this episode, the best way to support us is by leaving a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And don't forget to subscribe on YouTube so you never miss an episode. You can also find out more from me on all social media platforms. The links are below. Until then, remember, if it's not turning, you're not earning.